she mocked me. "If you can't even afford an Audi for your girlfriend, you'll never be on my level. Stay here and enjoy your small life, okay?" I stood up, grabbed my coat and said quietly, "You're right." Then I walked away. A month later, the courthouse called me. She looked at the necklace I'd spent 2 weeks crafting by hand, silver, delicately engraved with twin wings, and she laughed loud enough for the whole table to hear. "Oh, Daniel. It's cute, really, but if you can't even afford an Audi for your girlfriend, you'll never be on my level. Stay here and enjoy your small life, okay?" Her friends snickered behind their wine glasses. The waiter froze. My face didn't move. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I simply nodded, stood up, slipped my coat on, and said quietly, "You're right." Then I walked away. That was the last night I saw Claire in person. For her, it was just another joke, another way to show off in front of people who thought money measured worth. For me, it was the moment something inside me finally stopped trying. A month later, the courthouse called. My name's Daniel Reyes, 31, and I've been a jeweler for more than a decade. Not the luxury store kind. I own a small workshop on a quiet street downtown, where sunlight hits the glass just right in the afternoon. My hands are scarred from polishing metal, and silver dust never leaves my clothes, but I don't mind. It's honest work. Every piece I make carries a bit of me. Patience, precision, a heartbeat. I grew up modestly. My mom was a seamstress. My dad, a mechanic. They taught me that skill was a kind of wealth, one that couldn't be stolen or bought. I learned early that you can make something beautiful out of what others overlook. Maybe that's why I fell in love with metal. It's stubborn like people. It needs heat and pressure to shine. 2 years ago, I met Claire Moreau at a charity gala I wasn't even supposed to attend. A friend of mine who runs a catering business needed help setting up. Claire was there in a crimson dress, laughing like the whole room belonged to her. When she found out I was a jeweler, her eyes lit up. "An artist with rough hands," she said. "That's rare." We started dating soon after. At first, she'd visit my workshop after work, watching me shape molten silver into something delicate. She said she loved the smell of polish and fire. I made her a bracelet once. She wore it every day. Back then, she used to say, "I love that your world is simple, Daniel. It makes it feel real, but people change. Or maybe they remember who they wanted to be." Her father owned a luxury import company. Cars, watches, fragrances, the kind of business that makes money by selling the idea of class. When she got promoted into a management role, things shifted. New clothes, new friends, new dinners. Suddenly, every story she told started with a brand name. At first, I didn't mind. She had her circle. I had mine. But I started noticing the difference in how she looked at me. Not with affection, but with quiet calculation. "Why don't you open a real store instead of that little studio? You should hire a PR firm. You're talented, but no one will know if you don't act the part. You could design for high-end brands if you dressed like one of them." Her words stung. Not because they were cruel, but because they were casual. Like she'd already decided I wasn't enough. Her friends were even worse. The kind who treat curiosity like charity. "So you make jewelry? With your hands?" That's adorable. My family has a designer in Milan who handles all our custom pieces. I smiled through it, because Claire was there. She'd squeeze my hand and say, "Don't take it personally, babe. They don't mean it." But the truth was, she didn't defend me because she agreed with them. By our second year, we were living side by side, not together. She spent weekends at rooftop lounges and wine tastings, networking with people who introduced themselves by what they drove. I spent mine bent over a workbench, sketching designs, fixing heirloom rings for old couples who still believed in promises. She came home smelling like champagne and perfume. I smelled like metal in time. Still, I loved her. Maybe I was holding on to the woman I met at that gala, the one who found beauty in rough hands. Then came the comments. Little ones at first. "When we get married, we'll need to get you a proper car. Daniel, you should start dressing like your work costs something. You can't live paycheck to paycheck forever, love. Not if we want a future." She said we, but she meant you. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't struggling either. I made enough to live, save, and dream. But in Claire's world, comfortable wasn't success. It was failure dressed as contentment. Still, I wanted to believe we could meet halfway. So when our second anniversary came, I decided to remind her of who we were before the noise, before levels and luxury blurred everything. I spent 2 weeks crafting something personal. A silver necklace with twin wings meeting at a single ruby. 2 halves of the same piece, hers and mine. She didn't know how many nights I stayed late. How many times I burned my fingers smoothing every curve. How often I scrapped the design and started over just to get it perfect. I thought it might bring her back to the simplicity she used to love, but maybe that version of her only existed in my memory. By then, I wasn't the artist she admired. I was the man she tolerated. Our 2nd anniversary fell on a Friday night. Claire wanted to celebrate properly, which, in her world, meant a reservation at a rooftop restaurant with a view of the city skyline, champagne on arrival, and a valet waiting at the curb. I thought it would be the 2 of us. I wore my best suit, brought the velvet box, and rehearsed what I'd say when I gave her the necklace. But when we arrived, I realized it wasn't our night at all. It was hers. 5 of her friends were already seated, laughing loud enough for the whole terrace to hear. Rachel, one of them, looked up and grinned. "There's the man of the hour." The hour apparently wasn't about me. It was about Claire's promotion, her move into upper management. "Surprise," she said, kissing my cheek. I thought it'd be fun to celebrate with everyone. Everyone. Meaning her friends, the polished kind who treat people like accessories. I smiled, trying to be gracious. I'd come to celebrate her after all. I ordered wine, listened to their chatter about designer vacations, art auctions, and new cars. Claire fit perfectly among them. Confident, loud, magnetic. I sat there feeling like a visitor in her new world. When the main course arrived, I decided it was time. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the velvet box and placed it gently on the table. The noise dimmed. Claire looked at it, curious. "Oh, what's this?" I smiled. "A gift." "For you." She raised an eyebrow. Her friends leaned in. Rachel whispered, "Oh my God, is this it?" I opened the box. Inside, the silver necklace glimmered, twin wings joined at the center by a ruby the color of sunset. Under the warm lights, it shimmered like a heartbeat. "I made this for you," I said. 2 wings, 1 for each year we've been together. 1 for you, 1 for me." For a moment she was quiet. Then she laughed, not gently, not out of surprise, the kind of laugh that draws attention. "Oh, Daniel," she said, shaking her head. "You're adorable." Her friends exchanged glances. "It's beautiful," one said politely. "Did you make it yourself?" "Of course," Claire replied, grinning. "He makes everything himself. He's a real craftsman." Laughter rippled around the table. I kept still, my hands folded in my lap. "You know," Claire went on, "most guys I know buy their girlfriends Audis or Cartier bracelets. But not Daniel. Daniel gives art." More laughter. The waiter froze beside us, not sure whether to serve dessert or disappear. Then came the line that cut through the noise. "Honestly," she said, swirling her wine, "if you can't even afford an Audi as a gift, you'll never be on my level. Stay here and enjoy your small life, okay?" Her friends laughed again, softer, almost nervously this time. They knew she'd crossed a line, even if she didn't. I looked at her, really looked at her. The shimmer of her earrings, the practiced smile, the way she held her glass like it was proof she belonged here. She wasn't the woman from my workshop anymore. I closed the box gently, pushed it toward her, and said quietly, "You're right." Then I stood up, placed cash for my meal on the table, and slipped on my coat. Claire blinked. "Daniel, what are you doing?" "What you told me to," I said. "Enjoying my small life." No one said a word. Even the waiter looked away. I walked out without turning back. The night air outside felt sharp, honest. I walked 3 blocks before I realized my hands were shaking, not from anger, but from clarity. My phone buzzed with messages as I drove home. "Daniel, come back. You're embarrassing me in front of my friends. Fine. Stay gone if you want. I don't need a man who can't keep up." I didn't reply. When I got home, I set the necklace box on my workbench and stared at it for a long time. The ruby caught the faint light from the desk lamp, glowing like something still alive. For 2 years I'd tried to make us fit, bending, polishing, softening edges. But some metals just don't bond, no matter how much heat you apply. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without noise. No phones, no arguments, no weight on my chest. I didn't know it then, but that silence wasn't emptiness. It was freedom. Exactly a month later, on a quiet Tuesday morning, my phone rang while I was polishing a wedding band. Unknown number. "Mr. Reyes?" a calm voice said. "This is Officer Lang from the county courthouse. Are you available to answer a few questions regarding a Miss Claire Moreau?" For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. "Claire," I said. "What about her?" "There's an active investigation involving her family's company, Moreau Holdings," the officer explained. "Your name appeared in several financial records connected to her personal accounts. We're just verifying the legitimacy of those connections." My stomach dropped. "What kind of connections?" "Jewelry invoices," she replied. "Transactions listed under D. Reyes Studio. Does that sound familiar?" It did, except those invoices weren't mine. "I don't have a company by that name," I said. "And Claire never purchased anything from me." "That's what we suspected," she said. "But since your name was used, we'll need an official statement to confirm you're not involved." I agreed to come in the next morning. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the half-finished ring in front of me. Claire's voice echoed faintly in my head. "If you can't even buy an Audi, maybe you should just stick to your little world." Now her level was being audited by the government. That night, I looked her up. The headlines were everywhere. Moreau Holdings under federal investigation for fraud and embezzlement. CEO and daughter, named in multi-million-dollar scheme. Assets frozen pending trial. In one photo, Claire was leaving a courthouse, wearing a beige coat and sunglasses, the confidence gone from her posture. The same people she tried to impress were now watching her unravel. When I went in the next day, I brought all my paperwork, tax filings, receipts, bank statements. The investigator, an older man with reading glasses, looked through everything and smiled faintly. "You're clean, Mr. Reyes," he said. "Looks like someone used your name to file fake invoices, probably to cover the movement of funds. It happens more often than you'd think." I signed my statement and left. But as I walked out, I couldn't shake the thought she'd used me, my name. The one she once said was too small to make headlines. 2 days later, the story exploded. Her father was indicted. The company's accounts frozen. Properties seized. The media swarmed them like sharks. And there she was again, in every photo, looking smaller, quieter, lost. Even her white Audi, the symbol of everything she'd bragged about, had been impounded as evidence of company assets. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt done. That night, I went back to my workbench. I hadn't sketched anything new since the breakup. But something in me stirred. Not anger, not revenge, just clarity. I opened my sketchbook and drew a familiar design. 2 wings, fractured down the middle, the ruby split in half. I called it the Fall of Vanity. It was the most personal thing I'd ever created. Every detail carried a memory. Her laughter, the sting of that dinner, the quiet after she was gone. I submitted the design to a regional jewelry showcase. Not for fame, just closure. A few weeks later, I got a call from a private collector in New York. Her voice was calm, refined, the kind of person used to getting attention, but not demanding it. "I saw your piece online," she said. "It's stunning. What inspired it?" I hesitated, then said, "A lesson." She laughed softly. "That's rare in art," she said. "Lessons that don't sound bitter." Her clients, her circle. Only this one wasn't built on arrogance. It was built on appreciation. Within a month, the Fall of Vanity collection debuted in a boutique art gallery in Manhattan. Photos circulated online. Orders started coming in faster than I could fill them. My little workshop suddenly had a wait list, and somewhere between late nights at the bench and early morning deliveries, I realized something. Claire had been right about one thing. I wasn't on her level. I'd outgrown it. The gallery opening was nothing like the crowd I used to dread. No champagne bragging, no hollow compliments, just quiet awe. People stood in front of my pieces, whispering about texture and light, asking about the emotion behind each design. When the curtain pulled away from the Fall of Vanity, the room went still. A woman in a black gown turned to me and said softly, "It feels like a confession." I smiled. "Maybe it is. Some stories don't need to be told out loud. They live better in metal and fire." The collection sold out within weeks. A magazine interviewed me about emotional craftsmanship, how heartbreak can shape art. It sounded poetic when they wrote it, but to me it was just survival. I moved to a larger studio, brighter, quieter, but still mine. My mom cried when she saw my name in print. My dad just nodded and said, "See, gold shines but silver lasts." He was right. Life had gone quiet again, not empty, just peaceful. Then one afternoon my phone rang. Unknown number, Daniel. Hey, it's me. Her voice froze me for half a breath. Claire, she sounded different, slower, fragile, like someone who'd been running from herself for too long. I saw your work in the gallery feature, she said. It's beautiful. Thank you, I said, a pause. Then, quietly, I wanted to call and apologize. For everything. I don't expect forgiveness. Her voice broke. I lost everything, Daniel. The house, the cars, the company. Dad's still in court. I'm living back home now. And I keep thinking about that night at the dinner. She stopped, then whispered, You said you're right, and walked away. I laughed like it didn't matter. But when everything fell apart, I kept hearing those words. You were right. I was small, there it was, and the thing I'd once wanted to hear. And yet, standing there in my quiet workshop, I felt nothing but calm. I looked at the ring I was polishing, a simple platinum band for a couple who'd saved up months to afford it. Real love, humble love. And I said softly, I hope you find peace, Claire. I already have, we said goodbye. For real this time. After she hung up, I sat there for a long while just listening to the hum of the polishing wheel. Outside sunlight filtered through the window, catching dust in the air and turning it gold. I realized then closure doesn't come from revenge. It comes from quiet, from letting go of something you once tried too hard to fix. Weeks later, my apprentice, a young artist named Qley, asked me, Mr. Reyes, how do you know when a piece is finished? I smiled. When it stops asking to be fixed. That night I stayed late at my bench shaping a pendant for an upcoming exhibit. 2 wings again. Same shape, same symmetry. But this time the ruby at the center wasn't split. It was whole. I called it grace. When the gallery owner saw it, she sent me a note. Your new work feels lighter. Like you finally let go. She was right. Claire built her life on reflections and all shine. No substance, it shattered the moment truth touched it. Mine was built with my own hands. Slow, imperfect, but honest. And it endured. People talk about levels like they're measured in cars, titles, or zeros on a screen, but standing in my workshop, surrounded by silver dust and sunlight, I finally understood what she never did. You don't rise by climbing someone else's ladder. You rise when you build your own.